Hello, it's Easter Monday, the 22nd of April 2019. Plus TV Africa wishes you happy Easter. We do hope that Easter will give you reasons to celebrate and enjoy the resurrection of life. And the weather forecast in Lagos today, at the moment, is like 28 degrees, but it will mostly be sunny and it will feel like it's 34 degrees. So remember to stay hydrated always. I am Tokunbo Taiwo, and this is Off the Press. Okay, so we've got for Off the Press this day newspaper. We've also got Vanguard. We've got, let's see now, we've got Complete Sports. We'll be discussing Complete Sports later towards the end of the program. We've also got The Punch and The Nation newspapers. And here to discuss with me the major headlines, I've got our in-house analyst here in the studio, Samson Oloyede. Thank you very much for joining us once again.
Good morning.
Good morning. So how has your morning been and how did you celebrate Easter?
Well, the morning has been good. I celebrated Easter by being home alone. I went to church, got back, and just decided to take some rest.
So in church, was there some kind of festive activity, any kind of drama celebrations, or any kind of...
Apparently, you know, it's the festive period, so lots of joyful celebrations as regards the resurrection of Jesus. And it was also a sober reflection to, you know, remind us of the moment and how we can live our lives to follow the pattern.
You sound like a pastor already. All right, let's delve right into the major headlines. Let's start with this day. Okay, so let's take a look. We're starting from the very top of this day newspaper. The very top headline is accolades, commendations as Arise Fashion Week ends. Sagori Cortaza Fashola Extol event. That story is available on page 9. And underneath that, we've got Discos may cede networks to third-party power distributors. That story is available on page 8. Okay, so at the in the middle of this day newspaper, we've got Tinubu, why I'm rooting for Lawan and Bajaba Miamila, who says it's a national interest obligatory to obey party directive, PDP to vote as a bloc. Okay, the main headline on this day is my parents are from Sokoto, Jigawa, Atiku replies Buhari. And just at the bottom, we've got low premium limits in the left-hand corner, low premium limits insurers' ability to pay claims, page 9. On the right at the bottom of this day newspaper is a picture on the runway. There's a designer there with British supermodel Naomi Campbell. Okay, let's just look on the flip side of this day newspaper. It's the usual articles, Alex Otti outside the box, and this time he talks on Made in China. If you want to find out what he's talking about, grab a copy of this day newspaper. Okay, let's flip back onto the front page. My parents are from Sokoto, Jigawa, Atiku replies Buhari. Let's talk about that, Samson, because this is quite an interesting bit. Yep. You know, we saw from way back when he was actually accused of being from Cameroon, you know. So for him to come out now to say his parents are actually from Sokoto and Jigawa, what do you make of that? Do you think he's trying to influence or to sort of remind Nigerians that he's really Nigerian, or this is a Buhari / Atiku politics in the making?
It's just the politics, you know, come into play. We can recall that there was also the certificate saga, the white certificate saga for Buhari at some point. When it comes to election periods, you have different propagandas flying around, and the latest, you know, due to the tribunal ongoing case, has to be the fact that Atiku is not even a Nigerian, so he's not fit, you know, to contest in the elections. It's just one of those things you see from political parties. He's responded now. It's from Sokoto, or his parents are from Sokoto and Jigawa. Now let's see what, you know, the APC faction comes up with in terms of countering these claims. But either way, you get the feeling that this is politics, you know, that's a bit childish. We need to get down to the substance itself.
But you know, when people discuss and when people talk, they usually say, you know, there's no smoke without fire. And oftentimes when we hear people talk about politics and people's originality, sometimes you find that people have actually lived in certain places for so long that they resonate as one of the citizens. Do you not think there might be some slight element of truth in terms of the fact that, you know, Atiku is, well, what do you think in terms of...
Well, truth is relative, it must be said. The truth is relative and it is intrinsic. It's what you term it as the truth or the fact that it is. Now, over the years, what we've known is that Atiku, you know, is a Nigerian from Adamawa and the rest of them. Now, it's going back to his, you know, lineage and trying to see if truly he's a Nigerian. I still think that we're just playing around. We need to get down to the substance of things. And the substance itself in this case has to do with the issues of the INEC server, you know, the results on the INEC server not tallying with what was announced. And that's the case ongoing at the tribunal. It's okay to have a legal case, you know, to dispute certain election results and all of that. Let's get down to the substance itself. When we neglect...
Which is the primary issue.
You understand? This is secondary. It was the same thing that happened when the WAEC certificate saga came up. I mean, Buhari had contested 4 times, you know, prior to the election at that point. And WAEC certificate saga didn't come up then. Why did it come up at that time? Now, that's not to dispute the fact that if a certain claim comes up and it seems credible enough that we shouldn't pursue it, you know, to find out the truth. But what I'm saying is we shouldn't discard, you know, the fundamental objectives or subjects that we need to address and chase shadows. It's not done.
Okay, I still have to bring us to this topic. You know, in as much as this is secondary, we've still got to sort of look into it in detail, because now he's saying he's from Adamawa State, you know, but that his parents are actually from Sokoto and Jigawa. So I don't know, if you are really from Adamawa State, should your father not be from Adamawa State, or it doesn't work like that?
Well, different. You know, you would also have to look back to this creation of states. Was Adamawa carved from one of these states he mentioned?
No, Adamawa was like in the other side, and it was carved out from Gongola, if I remember correctly. So, you know, so they're on opposite ends. So
you really look at it. I think that while you can pursue the truth on this, we shouldn't, you know, lose focus on the fundamental issues. Yeah. And that's the fact that there are claims that the results on the INEC server is not tallying with what was announced, and those are things we should address. Although you may also want to recall, you know, if we're to deviate a bit, that it also happened in American politics when Obama was accused of not being American and he had to release his birth certificate. Yeah. If Atiku is going to solve this once and for all,
he should release his birth certificate?
Maybe.
Because I was going to say we need some kind of document to prove that he definitely is Nigerian. All right, then. Let's leave that there and move on to our next newspaper. We've got the Vanguard next. Let's take a look at the Vanguard. We'll start at the very top before we look at the major headlines. In the top right-hand corner, we've got Happy Easter to all of our esteemed readers. Well, the main headline there is I'm full-blooded Nigerian, Atiku replies Buhari, APC. That story is on page 8, which we've already talked about briefly. Also, to the left-hand side of that story, we've got how low-yield, high NPL took toll on Tier 1 banks' performance. That's on Financial Vanguard, the inside story available there. Okay, now the major headline in the middle of the Vanguard, we've got acute hunger, outrage as IDP children feed on onion leaves. Can laments the situation in IDP camps. ACF calls for immediate probe. The full story is available on page 5. Okay, let's look at the bottom of the Vanguard. There are 2 pictures there, one on the left and one on the right. The one on the left is commemorating the Easter blessing by Pope Francis, and then on the right we've got a representative, provost of the Cathedral Church of Christ, and a lot of important dignitaries in the Cathedral Church of Christ celebrating Easter there. At the bottom of the Vanguard, there are many stories. We'll start from the left-hand side. Third mainland bridge safe, says federal government, page 38. Ninth, National Assembly, why I support APC Buhari's position. Tinubu, page 44, that story. And next to that headline is Oshodi Apapa Expressway. Federal government insensitive to our plight. Motorists and commuters say, page 10. And to the far right, we've got 200 killed in Sri Lanka, churches and hotels bombing, page 36. Okay, I think that's enough for the Vanguard. Behind it, we've got lots of sports stories, which I'm sure we'll touch on when it's time for sport. So back to the main headline: outrage as IDP children feed on onion leaves. What say you? What's your initial reaction to this story?
Well, it's awful. It's not a good sight. You know, it's not a good tale to hear. An immediate probe has to be, you know, initiated because the IDPs, you know, camps, they have certain monetary budgets allocated to them to ensure that the victims there are, you know, in good condition. So if there are reports that they're not feeding well, they lack basic things, and you know, it calls for immediate probe. Something has gone wrong somewhere. Yeah. And I do think that the federal government needs to weigh in quickly. Yeah. And you also have bodies like, you know, maybe NEMA, the National Emergency Management Agency, who is in charge of, you know,
allocating
issues like this and seeing to their welfare. They also need to come on board. Something must have gone wrong somewhere. It's not nice that you have little children, and that's what the report is about now. Outrage as IDP children, not even adults, you know, children feeding on onion leaves. It talks about hunger, it talks about starvation.
I really don't understand it. You know, it's better to give someone onions than to give them the leaves. I'm like, I don't understand it. And if the worst comes to the worst, there's so many other food items that you can give, you know, someone who needs food as opposed to leaves.
Well, before the children will feed on that, you probably know that they had no alternative. And that's why I said it calls for an immediate probe. And not just probe, but people have to be brought to justice. You know, we once had the case with Babache Lawal and the 200 million naira saga, you know, cutting of the IDP environment camps and all of that. These things have occurred over time. And what we've just done is probably initiated a committee to set up a committee rather to initiate proceedings. And we do not see it to the end. Babache Lawal till now hasn't been prosecuted. You know, it was just removed as the SGF of Nigeria. So you have to look at all these things and ensure that it's not just about, you know, investigation, but ensuring that justice is meted out to, you know, whoever is the culprit in here.
So Khan is actually lamenting the situation in the IDP camps, but do you think they themselves should be doing something as well?
Definitely, all hands on deck. When you have a sort of humanitarian crisis, you don't leave it to the government alone.
Because I just think, you know, they're lamenting. I think they should actually be implementing some kind of...
They should step in as well. They should step in. I do think that for humanitarian crisis, it's an issue of all hands on deck to ensure that we provide as much as we can, you know, basic things that the victims there would need. I can make a very good example of the victims of the collapsed building at Itafaji that happened last month in Lagos. They've been resettled to Igondo, and they're doing quite well. I was there. They're doing quite well. Okay,
all right. Before we wrap up on the Vanguard, let's quickly talk about this. Third mainland bridge safe, federal government. I don't know if you saw some of the social media posts. So that's quite an interesting story because there was a lot of reports regarding the bridge being unsafe before a statement was finally released.
By the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola. I think that the minister has done well in addressing the panic of the people, the fear that the bridge, that's perhaps the busiest road, you know, in Nigeria or in Lagos, let's put it that way. So it's understandable if people are, you know, fearful that the bridge is not safe for transportation. But he has addressed...
Yeah, but sorry to cut in there. What do you think could have led to that kind of speculation? If the bridge isn't moving, what would have made someone, you know, just come up like that? Or was it, technically speaking, really shifting before it was addressed?
No, I don't think so. I think we've had, you know, regular maintenance checks on the bridge over the years. I mean, I can remember vividly during Fashola's tenure as the governor of Lagos State, the bridge was shut down for a couple of days, you know, to check it out and ensure that everything is, you know, in place. The same thing happened during Ambode's tenure, probably some 2 years ago or last year. So the bridge has been maintained over the years. It's not abandoned and then it's just like a panic, maintenance check this time around. I think it's just one of those miscommunication or communication gaps, as it were.
All right, let's move on to our next newspaper now, and we're discussing The Nation. The Nation has quite a lot of headlines, so I'll start from the top. In the top left-hand corner, we've got Unity Love take front seat at Easter, page 2, and underneath that, we've got I'm a Nigerian by birth. Atiku replies APC. That's a recurring story on the major national dailies that we've talked about earlier. That story is on page 7. To the right of The Nation newspaper, in the top right-hand corner, a number of stories there. We're starting with Alaafin 6 unity among Yoruba, page 10. Underneath that, local meter manufacturing up to 100% on page 19. And I don't regret playing for Nigeria, page 47. That's a sports story. Underneath that, man kills wife for planning to remarry. That story is on page 5. Okay, in the middle of the Nation newspaper, we've got to the left-hand side in the middle, 24.39 trillion naira debt. Nigeria not in debt crisis, says federal government. The story is on page 6. And next to that, we've got Senate leadership, APC governors step in, page 6. The main, if we look at the bottom of The Nation now, we've got a number of pictures, and it's regarding the Sri Lankan Easter attacks. Hundreds have been killed, and there are lots of pictures there, but the full story is detailed in page 43. If you want to get that story, grab a copy of The Nation. And at the bottom of The Nation newspaper, we've got Tinubu defends his role in the assembly leadership battle. Says, I'm backing Buhari's choice to stop hijack of Senate and House. Let's look at the back of The Nation. It's the same article once again by Sam Omaseye in Touch, and he's talking about the devil's juice, whatever that means. Grab a copy of The Nation to find out. Okay, now this is one story that has taken place, that has been recurring from over the weekend. Hundreds killed in Sri Lanka Easter attacks. What's your initial reaction about this and, the terrorism act and everything?
Well, it's a sad one. It's really saddening because as at this morning, over 290 have been reported dead and lots of people injured. It's the worst attack we've seen since 9/11 in terms of terrorist attack.
Yes.
The way it was coordinated, 3 different locations. You had hotels, you had the churches as well.
Yeah.
And it's more worrisome because reports have emerged that there was a security memo passed around to the Sri Lanka military security forces, warning them about this attack.
So no one took
There was
heed.
an intel
but no
on the
one took
11th
heed.
of April. Today is 22nd. Yesterday was 21. So that was about 10 days, before the incident itself, or 9 days as it were.
And so the government did not take heed to that intel.
That's it. It's worrisome because this is not just a minor attack. It's a major attack in terms of the number of casualties.
Absolutely.
Both
And in
major
terms of the devastation to the infrastructure.
You understand, to the infrastructure. It was well coordinated. Those who did this
were professionals.
Were professionals. And it's really a sad one because the festive period where people were rejoicing. And why I say it was well coordinated is they knew so many people would be in church at this point, due to the Easter celebrations, and that was when they decided to attack. So many tourists around who lodged in hotels just to ensure that they were part of the festivities. It's saddening. It's not good for humanity. In our world where we're trying to promote peace. I expect the Sri Lanka security forces to step up and ensure that they apprehend 1 or 2 suspects. About 4 currently have been apprehended, but information hasn't been released yet. We expect more information to be released, and hopefully, other government agencies would also back them up.
Also, it's interesting, they've gotten quite a lot of worldwide support in terms of people that have released statements offering their condolences, including the Pope and so many other superpowers as well. What's your take about a lot of them reacting?
Well, it's good to react, but will they help in providing probably intelligence, you know, to ensure that the investigation into this, you know, deadly attacks?
Do you think they should actually provide intelligence, or do you think they should provide relief, at least in the first instance?
Well, there's the place of relief, no doubt, no doubt about it. It's already a humanitarian crisis. So many people will probably need, you know, blood transfusion, and as well as other basic things, you know. So definitely there has to be humanitarian aid supplied to Sri Lanka. But more importantly is you don't want a repeat of such deadly attacks. So there has to be an investigation, a full-scale investigation into why the intel that was passed around on the 11th of April was not implemented or reviewed
or not acted upon,
and also to ensure that they prevent such attacks from happening. So they really have to launch a full-scale investigation. And sometimes you have neighboring, you know, nations around you who probably have a better intelligence unit who can also provide intelligence units, either, you know, through drones and all of that. So I think all hands has to be on deck in terms of humanitarian aid, as well as a full-scale investigation to prevent such from happening.
Absolutely. All right, then let's move on to our final newspaper before we round up. We've got The Punch next, and the major headline on The Punch is CMDs lament inadequate funding of teaching hospitals. The story is available on page 2, but there's a rider underneath that which says, we have been surviving through donations from well-meaning Nigerians, alumni and foreign donors. We have 8 million naira monthly statutory allocation as running costs. We may not get this money more than once in 4 months. We pay on average about 13 million naira monthly to the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company. That's the CMD for OAUTH. Okay, so and then underneath the bottom of The Punch, we've got more pictures of the explosions in Sri Lankan hotels, churches, which we said earlier has killed at least 207 people. Details of that story on The Punch is on page 12. Okay, without much further ado, let's just quickly talk about the funding in teaching hospitals. You know, what's your take on this story?
Well, teaching hospitals have been underfunded for a while, and it's affected the medical sector or the health sector as a whole, because you realize that teaching hospitals now lack basic, you know, equipment that they could use to treat patients. So governments, they talked about well-meaning Nigerians donating to their cause. You expect more people to get involved. You also expect the government to you know, provide equipment for them, because the average Nigerian cannot afford a private hospital.
Absolutely.
So it's always the government hospital, the teaching hospital. That's what, you know, that's where they go to for treatment. And if they go there and they cannot get the basic treatments they need, you know, basic equipment and all, then it calls for, you know, a bit of worry for the Nigerian health sector. So you expect government, more well-meaning Nigerians as well, to donate to the cause. But more importantly, to ensure that, see, life is very important, and we cannot joke with it. So we need to put things in place to ensure that you know, people get the care they need.
Samson, we're going to leave that there. We're running out of time, but we need to discuss sports as well. But before we do, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll be discussing sports. This is Off the Press. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Off the Press. I'm Tokunbo Taiwo, and here with me in the studio to discuss sports is our in-house sports analyst, yes, Samson Oloyede. So we've talked about the main stories. Let's discuss sports right now. You know, we've got complete sport. There are a number of reports regarding some of the matches that took place yesterday. We've got Everton Thrash Woeful United. It's a 4-0 win there. And then we've got Liverpool back on top. Cardiff 0 and Liverpool 2. We've got at the bottom, we've got Madagascar, Eagles Don't Scare Us. And then Raw insists no new players for 2019 AFCON. Okay, so should we start with, the matches that took place yesterday? Everton 4, that's quite a performance.
Yeah, quite a performance. It only shows how awful United were as well, because you're as good as your opponent permits you to be in sports. I think I'm not taking anything away from Everton. They played so well yesterday, but United contributed to that by being so awful. And David De Gea, once again in the spotlight, got beaten, from distance, not once, not twice. So it says a whole lot as regards United's defensive unit. 47 goals considered. It's worrisome. They've lost 6 of their last 8 games, and now Ole is at the wheel. So it shows that there's a whole lot of work to be done at the summer. I'm sure about 8 players would leave, and there has to be a proper recruitment plan in place to get new players on board.
All right, then let's talk about Liverpool. They're back on top with 2, having won, Cardiff 0.
Yeah, good one. They grinded out the results. It wasn't the best of performance. Cardiff are also fighting relegation, but they were able to grind it out. Now it's pressure back on City. City will be playing against United on Wednesday, and they need to win that match to ensure that they're back at the top. Should they draw the match, then it's going to be advantage Liverpool. So at this stage, it's all about piling the pressure on your opponent and pushing the race to the wire.
Yes,
I think it will go down the wire.
Okay, and how can we talk about the matches and not talk about Arsenal and Crystal Palace? 2-3. Well, Arsenal was 2, Crystal Palace 3. Were you disappointed with Arsenal as well?
Yes, disappointed. It was a match that they could have won with ease, and they started off, badly, not being able to contain Benteke's aerial threats. Benteke got the first goal. They came back, Ozil getting that delightful goal, but they considered 2 more goals that they could have avoided, and Aubameyang's lead goal was a mere consolation. Overall, this may hurt Arsenal if they're not careful, because as it is, it seems it's between Arsenal and Chelsea for the last Champions League spot. United seems off the radar, 6th position. So it's between Arsenal and Chelsea at this point in time. Okay,
I wish we had more time to discuss more stories, but unfortunately we are out of time. So that's where we're going to end Off the Press on this edition of the program. I am Tokunbo Taiwo, and we've been listening to our in-house sports analyst, Samson Oloyede. Thank you very much. Okay, so until tomorrow, we're back tomorrow, same time, 8:30 precisely, for another edition of Off the Press. Until then, I remain Tokunbo Taiwo saying good morning.